Hi, and welcome to the Justice for Georgia podcast. My name is Johnny.
And I'm Mr. Ambitious. Today we're going to be talking about Jamarion Robinson.
So this case is important for several reasons. One is that this case involves excessive force. And we've seen a lot of cases of excessive force throughout the U.S. and also in Georgia, but this may be one of the worst cases of excessive force that I've seen. And not only excessive force, but also issuing of a no-knock warrant. So, and this is something that activists have been complaining about for years, because if you don't, as an officer, identify yourself, how am I supposed to know whether it's an officer at the door or someone else who's not an officer who means me harm or wants to, rob my family? I have no way of knowing that. But this case, it breaks down a lot of things like that, police misconduct in different ways and everything like that. So we're just gonna dive into it. Pretty much what happened was the police in East Point, Georgia were issuing a no-knock warrant. And in issuing this no-knock warrant, which they issued because they claimed that he pointed a gun at them at a drive-thru and got away. Now, I'm not brand new to these type of stories. I've heard a lot of different stories from a lot of different angles. There's no way a black man pointing a gun at an officer and they just let him, disappear into the night.
That's heavily problematic. First of all, you looked at him, got a glance in the dark, you said, hey, that guy pointed a gun at us. Y'all can't tell the difference between a cell phone, a brush, and a gun, but you knew it was a gun that was pointed at you. Knew enough to investigate him, to find out where he lived, get a no-knock warrant. Of all things, or all ways to handle the situation, we're gonna do that. And then handle the situation with it. It's just, the logic behind all of it is so problematic.
The whole thing is flawed. And it's not even a no-knock warrant at his home. It's at someone else's home. Which is just like the whole situation from beginning to end. I don't know what to call it other than problematic. It's nonsense. Incompetent, yeah. It's just, disregard for life. Complete disregard for life. So they go ahead and issue this no-knock warrant. They get it, and they're waiting outside of the home. They're waiting for, outside his girlfriend's house, waiting for her to leave, so that way it'll just be him, alone in the home. That's what they're waiting on. Now, I'm just gonna stop right there. Why would you want to bust in there to go after him with all the ways that could go wrong, instead of waiting until he's leaving the home to apprehend him? If apprehending him without any use of force was your goal. I mean, it's just...
If that was your goal.
If that was your goal. It just doesn't make any sense at all. None of it. Especially barging in without announcing yourself.
So, question. First degree murder suggests that you have to have a plan ahead of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Making sure that no one else is there sounds like part of a plan, right? Just throwing it out there.
Just throwing it out there.
Not making any statements, not making any conclusions, just throwing it out there.
No, that's a very valid point, how the law works differently for civilians versus officers with qualified immunity, which, by the way, is part of the issue with this case. And basically, you can't just wash your hands of crimes you committed and say qualified immunity. You need a judge to determine it. You need a jury to look at the facts. You can't just say qualified immunity. Otherwise, officers are free to do anything they want at any time, and that's not a society we want to live in.
And what's crazy about it, like you said, the judge has to write off on it. This is essentially the same as somebody walking into a bank with a checkbook and saying, hey, I own this bank now. I'm writing myself a check.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys are responsible for making sure you cash it. And that's what the cops are doing. They're walking into the courtroom, writing themselves a free get out of jail ticket, and the judge doesn't even have to look on it, doesn't have to say anything about it, and just magically, oh, okay, yeah, you guys can commit first degree murder and get away with it because you say so. Who else do you know can do that?
Nobody. And I like the bank analogy because if I walk in the bank and I hand them a check and I say, you know, Bill Gates wrote me a check for $1 billion. You're gonna go ahead and cash that, and I'm just gonna get on a plane and leave. They're not gonna take my word for it that Bill Gates did this. They're not gonna take my word for that. However, in the case of officers, you know, going out and getting a no-knock warrant, they can lie through their teeth through the entire thing, and judge is like, oh, sign off on it. It doesn't make any sense. It should be more, when you're dealing with something that's so problematic, if you're gonna have no-knock warrants, which I don't think you should at all, but if you're gonna have them, it should be a very tedious process to determine, wait a minute, is this person actually a threat? Is this person, you know, did they actually do the things that you're saying they did? Right. What witnesses do you have to back this up? What evidence do you have to back this up? Do you have any video proof or anything like that? Don't tell me the camera just happened to malfunction.
So here's what I'm confused with. Why did they need a no-knock warrant to give him a charge of brandishing a weapon? Because that's essentially what he did.
Mm-hmm. That's what they claim. That's what they claim he did allegedly.
Yeah, brandishing a weapon. So let's just give him a charge. Why do we need to show up with an arsenal to charge? Anyways,
No, it's a good point, because basically, even though they could have done that, as you said,
right?
They decided that they were going to use they decided from the beginning they were going to use excessive force. Some of all these different officers that were involved, you know, they were heavily armed and everything like that. Just came in just ready for a shootout. And the way they went about it with the no-knock warrant busting in the door and everything like that, you pretty much guaranteed the maximum amount of either resistance, which is not what happened in this case, or misunderstanding, which is exactly what happened in this case. Because it's like, you know, you hear people busting the door, like, well, who is this? Why are they doing this? Are they a threat? That's the misunderstanding that happened there, and it shouldn't have.
And we can argue that this misunderstanding was by design.
We can. We definitely can. So they're issuing a no-knock warrant. They kick in the door. Jamarion Robinson standing at the top of the stairs. He is unarmed. He's not doing anything that makes him a threat. He's just standing at the top of the stairs. Now, I can give you the police account of the events real quick. They claim that he was doing that, right? That they fired at him, and then he disappeared behind something. I think it was a wall. He disappeared behind the wall. He comes back out, they fire him again, disappeared behind the wall again. Comes back out, they fire him again. With the number of times that he was shot, it's just not possible that he could have been doing all of that. It's not possible. So I don't even believe that aspect of it. And another aspect they claim to have is that they claim he had a weapon. Well, there was only one weapon in that home, which, by the way, wasn't his home. So it doesn't mean it's his weapon automatically just because it was there. There was only one weapon there, no fingerprints, and the gun didn't work.
So there was no weapon now?
There was nothing. Nothing that he touched, nothing that worked. And that was their excuse for firing so many shots, for their overkill. And I've actually visited this home in East Point. We went to the apartment, we found it. There are still bullet holes in the doorway, meaning that after they kicked in the door, they just started firing immediately without even like entering in. And so the real occurrence of events was they kicked in the door, saw him at the top of the steps. They used flashbang grenades on him first to try to disorient him. Then immediately they fired 110 rounds at him, leaving him with 76 bullet holes. And yeah,
75.
75.
After they finished that volley of those multiple volleys, they walked up the steps, inspected his body, and shot down into it. That's where that 60 or 76 bullet hole came from. That wasn't during the volley. They wanted to send a message, maybe? Yeah.
No, it's a good point, because the last shot fired, the trajectory of it suggests that they were standing above him. So they had to fire down into his body. That goes beyond seeing somebody that you claim is a threat and trying to stop them. That's just simple disregard for life. That's just simple hatred for the person that you're supposed to be apprehending. And to me, that has no place in the police force. How can you effectively do your job if you immediately write off anybody who allegedly did something as guilty, you immediately use excessive force, and you go above and beyond to disrespect them like that afterwards, after it's clear that they can't do anything.
So this indicates two things for me. One, malicious intent.
Exactly.
You can't tell me you was afraid for your life with a dead body on the ground shooting into it. The second thing is hubris. There's a complete confidence in the system to protect them from committing murder. So much so, in an active crime scene, you would walk over a dead body, shoot it, and put handcuffs on. You clearly see.
No, it's a good point. The way that people are treated after incidents like this happen is disgusting. And like you said, it shows the malicious intent. And the fact that their attitude like that alone, the fact that after it was clear he was not a threat, they're still doing more things to him, that alone should have led to a charge. That alone should have made the judge realize, like, no, there's no excuse. They have to be held accountable. That by itself, that's on top of the excessive violence that was shown against somebody who was unarmed. One of the issues that America has is that anytime a police officer does anything wrong, such as shooting somebody and things of that nature, they always jump to the excuse, I thought he had a gun. And it's just like, how can this excuse just be a blanket to cover up the malicious intent, the incompetence, the hatred, and in a lot of actual proven cases, the white supremacy that's coming from our police force? How can that just cover everything and make it all fine? It doesn't make any sense.
And the absurd part of all that is, if you want to say you fear for your life, the burden of proof is on the person convicted, right? But they're never convicted. So how could not convicted, charged? If they're never charged, they never have to prove that they fear for their life. You can't tell me in any portion of this incident, Jamarion Robinson indicated that he was a threat directly to them that would justify walking into a building, throwing a flash grenade, unleashing a hailstorm of bullets before you actually confirm that there's any threat from him at all. And then afterwards, you're going to tell me with all the bullets going in one direction, this is a justified shooting? Either they're crazy and the people who did the investigation are crazy, or the system is corrupt. One or the other. And I refuse to believe that it's just those people being crazy.
No, the system is corrupt top to bottom. And the way you see this is how militarized they were, how heavily armed they were.
And you know what? A lot of people say that. Militarized, yes, in actions. But as far as military training, you know how many steps you gotta go through before you can shoot a shot?
Oh yeah.
I mean, come on. If we had the rules that they have overseas when engaging in combat and what wars against humanity are, what crimes against humanity are, the charges for the police departments across America would be on trial every day. Like, this is ridiculous. You can't tell me that they're militarized. They're almost like a Gestapo when it comes to dealing with black people. And it's a murder squad that showed up to his house to do what other than arrest him? Because they couldn't have been there to arrest him. They demonstrated no intent on doing that.
There was no way they ever intended to do that. And part of the issue with the entire thing was just from beginning to end. It's just like, okay, let's start from the beginning. Say you want to arrest somebody. Your first goal has to be to peacefully arrest this person, no incident. If that's not your first goal, now you need to be held accountable for not doing that. And their whole, from the beginning, their whole attitude was terrible. Witnesses in the area talk about the police attitude. You know what I'm saying? Get back in your home, or we'll shoot. They came with that type of violent attitude from the very beginning before they even issued a no-knock warrant by kicking in the door. Before they did any of that, they already had a violent mindset. And they pretty much came to a malicious intent, and they had no intentions of doing anything peacefully. If you're acting like that towards innocent people just going about their day, they just happen to be in the same apartment complex. There's no way.
So, to take insult and add it to injury, after they handcuffed his body, they dragged his body down the steps.
It's something deep rooted. It's something really, really deep rooted. And this is about the Kentucky police, but I swear it ties to all police everywhere. They actually had Hitler quotes in their training. And this came out a few years ago. And their response was just like, oh no, we removed that. That's in the past. No, you can't hand wave that because eventually, I'm pretty sure someone said something, you removed it. No, you have to actually acknowledge the fact that there's something systemically wrong here, that it was a Hitler quote used in the training in the first place. You have to acknowledge that. So it goes that deep, not just in Kentucky, not just in Georgia, but everywhere in the US, the problems run that deep, where the immediate mindset of a lot of officers is that I have to use over-the-top, excessive force to show, as a show of power, to keep myself safe. No, if you have that mindset, please do not be an officer. You're endangering everyone, including yourself. And with all those things being said, he had been recently diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. The officers made no attempt to take this into account whatsoever. And if you know someone is suffering from a mental health issue like this, why wouldn't this be a part of your, strategy to apprehend them?
Right. It just suggests that you don't see them as a human being. They had no intent to treat him the way you would treat a human being, and it's no more than that. It's just that blatant. There's not much you can say. Speaking to even just his mental health, his physical stature, he was 5'6", 155 pounds. How much force do you think is necessary? Even if you're a judo master and you see the cops coming and you got no gun. Let's say, 3 people, maybe 2 people, unarmed, could at least put him in handcuffs. I don't care if he's judo master, I don't care. And on top of that, if someone says, hey, I'm an officer, and they try to run away, you still don't shoot them.
No.
That's not justified.
It's not.
So, the amount of force they use for his stature being understood, his mental health being understood, suggests that there was something else going on with them mentally and what their intentions were. What this case tells us is this specific police department understood all the tools they had available to them, and they used them to commit murder. Not only did they commit murder, they used those same tools to get away with murder. So, if we had a officer trained in mental health showed up with them, if we had no qualified immunity, and if we had just simple accountability and procedures that would allow for someone to hold police officers accountable when doing stuff like this, and not being able to just write themselves a free no-knock warrant by lying and giving details, whatever they want, to set up and put this whole event into play, it's quite easy to say that Jamarion would still be with us.
It is, and I keep going through my head. If you want to apprehend him peacefully, wait till he's leaving the house alone. Approach him. You have cops set up, maybe behind the house just to make sure if he tries to run, you can get him or something like that. But you approach him, you talk to him like a person, because he is a person. That's what you do. That's how you try to handle something peacefully. And there was no attempt made to do anything like that.
When it comes to the hard facts about Jamarion Robinson, there are many, many hard facts. First is that he was only 5'5", 155 pounds. Now, as you've heard, 110 rounds were shot at him, leaving him with 76 bullet wounds. This is one of his autopsy photos that his mother unfortunately has had to see, along with many people in the Atlanta community, to know about what has happened to Jamarion Robinson. 76 bullet wounds in a stature that's 5'5", 155 pounds is excessive, period. There's no excuses for it. Too much happened, but that's not just it. They threw 3 flashbang grenades at his body initially before firing, and afterwards they threw a flashbang grenade landing on his body as a reflex test. Now you tell me that officers who are supposed to detain, officers who are not judge, jury, and executioner, officers who are meant to bring this person in that they're serving a warrant on, you're telling me that you're gonna do a flashbang grenade reflex test on their body? Please, guys, wake up. That means that they were trying to kill him and they were making sure that he was dead. Another hard fact about Jamarion Robinson is that after he was fired upon, he wasn't just shot with his hands up. He was shot throughout his body, and as he was laying on the ground, several shots were shot into him. The private investigator found this out by going to the scene and pulling back the carpet, and bullets were literally lodged into the ground, showing evidence of them firing directly down into Jamarion Robinson. Another hard fact is that they handcuffed him. As you can see, the handcuffs are extremely tight. William Sauls, who is one of the officers involved in this task force, is one of the same officers who originally, in 2020, earlier that year, assaulted 2 college students, one from Morehouse and one from Spelman, along with other officers, brutally dragging them out of the car, telling them that they were going to die that night, and of course falsely imprisoning them, as we all found out. He is the same officer who dragged Jamarion Robinson by his feet down the stairs and left him down there for over 8 hours without rendering any medical aid or without even trying to see if there's any potential of life. William Sauls is also the same officer that at the beginning of this warrant yelled, "There's a gun, he has a gun." But under court documents, he stated that he did not see Jamarion Robinson with a gun. Another hard fact about Jamarion Robinson is that even though multiple news outlets said that it was an East Atlanta man that had a shootout with police officers, there were 5 shots in the palm of one hand and 6 shots in the palm of the other hand. And as expert private investigators have pointed out, that shows evidence that his hands were completely up. This is one of his hands, unfortunately, that his mom had to cover with a glove for his service because officers shot directly into the palm of his hand. Another hard truth about Jamarion Robinson is that it's been over 4 years of a fight because the district attorney said that because all 17 task force members did not have their body cam on, it's going to be hard to move this case forward. Well, as you've seen from the 2 pictures that I've shown you, and as his mother always says, his body is the body cam. We must continue to fight for Jamarion Robinson, and we must not allow district attorneys to just sit on cases.
of waiting. It's been 4 years. That's not fair to me and my family. Why I gotta be up every night? I can't sleep because I got this weight on my shoulders. I can't even rest in peace. I haven't even been able to mourn my son's death because I've been out here fighting the fight, trying to get justice for my son.